because we're primed for it. You know how it is if you want to buy a new car and you know what model you want, and you drive around, that's all you see. That's all you see. You're like, oh, I want a new fill in the blank, whatever it is. I want a new Ford truck. Right? All you see is Ford trucks everywhere you went. Now, were they not there before? Well, of course they were. But you were primed to see it. You were primed to see it. This is the same way. We can prime ourselves to see the good. Regardless of what's going on in the outer, we can prime ourselves to see the good. And that's how to be blessed. That's how to live blessed. So, I started this new series last week called Filling in the Gap. Filling in the Gap, because I told you all last week, if you weren't here, that I'm having knee surgery on October 15th, and usually I do a series with using a book, and I thought, oh, there's not enough time for me to use a book, and I didn't want to go right into it, so I said, well, I'll just fill in the gap. So, filling in the gap. And last week, I talked about the topic of grace. And I talked about the topic of grace, how grace fills in the empty cup, how we have to empty our cup. We have to get rid of the distractions. We have to have that emptiness in order for grace to rush in. And don't you know, my mind was empty enough this week that in the daily reader I'm using, I found grace in this story. So this is just a reminder from last week. It's a story that you've heard before, and as I read it with that empty mind, with that emptiness that allows something else to come in, I thought, yeah, that's what grace is right there. There's an old story, this is from Mark Nepo's book of Awakening. There's an old story about a man who was caught in a flood. First he was called and told to evacuate his home. He calmly refused, saying God would save him. The waters rushed the streets, climbing the foundations of the homes, and when the streets were filled, a rescue team in a rubber raft called him. And again he refused, saying, God would save me. The power of the water deepened, and the flood was crashing through the windows of his home, and he was now perched on his roof. A helicopter came, and he still refused, saying yet again that God would save him. Now, anybody feel familiar about this? The floods did what floods do, and he drowned. And on the other side, he was angry and bitterly questioned God. Why didn't you save me? I kept my faith till the end. And God, perplexed, replied, I tried. I called. I sent a raft and a helicopter, but you wouldn't come. God starts in everything unseeable, but comes to us plainly in the things of the world. You see, that's how grace works, I think. God starts out unseen, but he comes to us in these things if we're empty enough to receive it. If we're empty enough to notice that there is grace right there on the front porch. You know, we didn't need to go beyond that. So, grace sees only love in everything. Grace sees only love in everything. That's what I talked about last week. Well, today, I've got another word for you, and that word is blessed. Blessed. So I'm filling in the gap with grace, and now blessed. And I thought, yeah, blessed is a great word, isn't it? Blessed is like, ooh, I want some blessedness. I want to walk around the world blessed, don't you? I'm like, ooh, that sounds really enticing to be in love with that, to know that I can walk around the world that way. I was like, all right, well, what does blessed mean? I use dictionary.com all the time because we parse around these words and sometimes we don't even know what they mean. You know, what does blessed mean? Blessed means to be blissfully happy, to be divinely fulfilled, to be spiritually mature, to be holy, to be at ease. To be divinely favored. Oh, I love that one. To be divinely favored. I'm like, well, heck yeah. I want to walk around the world like that. I want to walk around the world feeling divinely favored. Don't you? Yeah, I do. Well, the good news is there's a roadmap for it. Oh, aren't you relieved? There's a way that's already laid out, and it's an ancient way, actually, coming right from the Bible, Matthew chapter 5, verses 3 through 11, which I'm going to go over today, because I'm like, well, here it is, right here. We don't have to read the latest New Age book, although we can. But here it is, right in what's called in that chapter of Matthew, the Beatitudes. Are they, oh yeah, the Beatitudes, I've heard say that it's the Beatitudes. Well, you know what Beatitude means? Beatitude means exalted happiness. Exalted happiness. I'm like, oh, I'm on the right track here. Because that's what I want, exalted happiness. It's right here. Right here. So all these ways, this blessedness that we're going to talk about today, that I'm going to talk about, is all about being able to be in exalted happiness. Are you psyched? I'm like, wow, it's right here. It's right here. So here's the first one. And this is coming out of the Message Bible, which is a little bit different interpretation maybe than some of the Bibles you read. It's certainly not the King James Version. None of them are wrong. None of them are better than some others. It just so happens that I'm currently being inspired by this interpretation, so that's what you get to hear. All right? The New Revised Standard is usually what I'm reading. But here it is. Here's what this says. You are blessed when you're at the end of your rope. With less of you, there is more of God. Oh, you are blessed when you are at the end of your rope because there's less of you and more of God. Yeah. The end of the rope. Not where we like to be usually. Because where are we usually when we're at the end of our rope? We're hanging on for dear life. The thing is fraying. We're moving. We can't hold on. The thing is slippery. And we're holding on for dear life at the end of the rope. We can't let go. We were either resisting something or clinging to something. And we can't let go. But we need to stop. We need to stop that nonsense. We need to stop and decide, you know what? That's not where I want to be in that stress. We need to stop with our trying to control things and make things our way. All right? That's what the end of the rope can feel like. We're out of control. We need to stop that. We need to stop that, and we need to do something I talked about last week, and we need to pray in this way and say, you know what? I'm letting go of this because my prayer is this. Help me see. Show me the way. Help me figure this out. Make this clear to me. Make this clear to me, and let go of the rope. Knowing that there's a net right there. Knowing that there's a net right there, because when there's less of me, there's more of God. That's what this beatitude is saying. That's what this instruction is saying. That's how to feel blessed. To not be hanging on for dear life, but to let go knowing there's a net. Not by looking out here. You're not going to find the net out here. You're going to find it in here. That's the first one. Blessed, the way to be blessed. You're blessed, and I've changed this. It's not blessed. This is blessed. This is walking around the world in blessedness. Like blessed. I'm changing it to blessed. Not changing it. You look it up in the dictionary. That's a valid pronunciation. You're blessed when you feel you've lost what is most dear to you. Only then can you be embraced by the one, by God, that is most dear to you. Now this is a hard one. It's tough to lose someone you love. It is a hard thing. How can we have blissful happiness in that? How can we feel divinely fulfilled and divinely favored in that? Well, here's the thing I've noticed about when we are in that pain, when we are in that place of grief, is we typically don't go out partying with our friends. We're not out doing this stuff out here. We spend some time with ourselves, don't we? We spend some time alone. And where do we end up if we have a spiritual foundation? We end up finding comfort and hope inside, don't we? We end up finding comfort and hope in our soul and from our soul. And the time we feel most lost, we can feel most found from the inside. That's what this one talks about. In that experience of loss, we can be found in that way. And that's how to walk around the world blessed. Blessed. You're blessed when you're content with just who you are, no more, no less. That's the moment you find yourself the proud owner of everything that can't be bought. There is no greater thing that you can give yourself than to accept yourself the way you are, to be content with yourself exactly as you are. Because there's so much of the time when we're not. We're looking for being better and faster and bigger and stronger and prettier and taller if we're short. We're looking for all that. Why? Why? Being who we are is being who we are from the inside out. From the inside out, not what we look like, not more money, more friends, more time, more stuff. No. Can you imagine being content with who you are? With who you are from the inside? To be absolutely content every day. Can you imagine that? I think it is the most amazing thing to be able to do, to feel absolutely content with yourself. To realize that you are the expression of the divine. You are the expression of the divine. Here's this poem I've used before from Mala of the Heart that says this: what is it you want to change? Your hair, your face, your body? Why? For God is in love with all those things, and He might weep when they are gone. He might weep when they are gone. For you to be content with who you are from the inside. Yeah? That is what it is to be blessed. You are blessed when you've worked up a good appetite for God. He's food and drink in the best meal you'll ever eat. Now here's the thing, folks, really. You've got to have a spiritual practice. You've got to make room for that in your life. Because if you don't, it's like if you decided not to eat or drink water anymore. You would wither away. Your physical body would wither away. It's the same with your spiritual nature. If you're not feeding that, if you're not finding a place and carving that out for yourself, if you don't have a desire, an intention to be filled spiritually, then you'll wither away. That's the truth. And when you do, though, when you do have that spiritual practice, and maybe you have more than one of them, all right? If there's not an exclusive nature to spiritual practice, you will never feel hungry again. You will always feel filled spiritually. You will always have a foundation that you can retreat to in yourself. And no matter what is going on in the world, you will have that, always. Something that cannot be taken away from you. To have that spiritual foundation. You're blessed when you care. At the moment of being careful, F-U-L-L, you find yourself cared for. Compassion. You know what? Compassion and caring is simply a demonstration of the flow of the divine through you. That's what it is. Compassion and caring is a demonstration of God, Holy Spirit, Allah, whatever it is through you. And the reason I understand that, and the reason I believe that, is think about every time you hear a news story, a good news story about a hero somewhere. And they've done something that's so heroic, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. And what does that person say? They say, well, I just did what anybody would have done. You've all heard that before. And you're thinking, oh my God, I don't know if I'd have done that. I would have just done what, you know why? Because that is our natural way of being. That is our natural way of being. So somebody who is that way feels as though it was the most natural thing to do. When we allow that to be, allow that flow. And that person, and you, if you've been that person, and I'm sure you have at some time in your life if you think back, were more full of love at that moment than any other time almost in your life. You were full by what you allowed to flow through you. By being careful, you felt cared for. A lot of times that hero feels invincible, doesn't understand how they didn't catch on fire or succumb to whatever was happening or drowned in the flood themselves. Yeah? It's like, oh my. In that moment you are cared full. That you're careful, you are cared for. You feel that feeling. You're blessed when you get your inside world, your mind and your heart put right. Then you can see God in the outside world. You know, I talk about this a lot. I talk about how, we don't find out here what feeds us the same way we find what feeds us from this side. And when we act from the inside, when we act from our heart, rather than let all of the distractions out here guide us, that, my friends, is how to live spiritually, right? That's how we can begin to see God in more things, in more ways. Because we're primed for it. You know how it is if you want to buy a new car and you know what model you want, and you drive around, that's all you see. That's all you see. You're like, oh, I want a new fill in the blank, whatever it is. I want a new Ford truck. Right? All you see is Ford trucks everywhere you went. Now, were they not there before? Well, of course they were. But you were primed to see it. You were primed to see it. This is the same way. We can prime ourselves to see the good. Regardless of what's going on in the outer, we can prime ourselves to see the good. And that's how to be blessed. That's how to live blessed. You're blessed when you can show people how to cooperate instead of compete or fight. That's when you discover who you really are and your place in God's family. Now listen. If you are primed, if you are showing up to fight, you know you are showing up in a way that's going to make somebody right and somebody wrong. There's going to be a winner and a loser if you show up to fight. But if you show up to cooperate, if you show up with an intention and an attitude of possibility, now you're talking. Now you've opened a door. You've opened a door to possibility that's beyond your own self. You've opened up a place for the divine to play. But if you go in for a fight, it's just going to be you versus them, or us versus them, or you versus he or she. To be blessed, to feel blessed, to operate blessed, you show up as possibility. Possibility doesn't take sides. Possibility simply is. And then you just discover who you are. You know how you discover that? You discover that it's not really you who does anything. In the deep spiritual sense, you don't do a thing. You just allow that to happen through you. You allow it to happen. Humility. Oh, it's a great asset when we're doing this blessed work. You're blessed when your commitment to God provokes persecution. Let me say that again. You're blessed when your commitment to God provokes persecution. The persecution drives you even deeper into God's kingdom. Not only that, count yourselves blessed every time people put you down or throw you out or speak lies about you to discredit me. What it means is that the truth is too close for comfort and that they are uncomfortable. You can be glad when that happens. Give a cheer even. For though they don't like it, I do. And all of heaven applauds. And know that you are in good company. My prophets and witnesses have always gotten into this kind of trouble. Yes, we want to shy away from that, don't we? We want to shy away from persecution. We're like, that is just not right. That is just not fair. It's just not what it is. But if you are practicing humility, if you are practicing kindness, if you are practicing love in your life, and it irritates somebody, cheer. Because it has created an opening for the divine to do some work. It has created an opening in you to understand something greater. So that's what it feels like to live blessedly, to allow that to happen. We have a great teacher among us. Well, not right here, but among us, and she's 16 years old, who's demonstrated exactly this. And you know, I'm talking about someone you're like, yeah, you know Greta Thunberg, who's been on the news, who is a climate crisis activist, who's trying to get the attention of, I was going to say old white men. It's what came to mind, I'm admitting it. Sorry, Chris. She's trying to get the attention of the entire world actually. She's trying to get the attention of saying, this climate thing that's happening, it's a crisis. It's a crisis. And you know she has Asperger's. I don't know if you know that. So she is able to use that condition to focus so intently on research and reading these papers and reading these books and understanding what's happening in the climate crisis that most of us in here, I'll just project, probably have no clue about. And she has dived into that for a whole year. She was here in the United States. She doesn't fly. She doesn't fly. So she rode in a sailboat from Europe over to the United States to speak to our government. She's sworn off flying, so she took a 60-foot sailboat on loan from Monaco's royalty to get to America. And while her selfies amid whitecaps drew new followers by the thousands, it also made her a target of conservative climate skeptics. This gentleman, who is the founder of the pro-Brexit movement in England, said this: "Freak yachting accidents do happen in August." That's what he said. She responded this way. She said, "For me, that is just in a way funny. It's like they don't have any arguments left, so they just have to mock me, mock my diagnosis or my appearance. In a way," she says, "it's a positive sign that something is happening. They feel threatened by this movement. That means we are making a difference." See, that's the idea of persecution. To be joyful about being persecuted when you are passionate and compassionate and kind. To have a spiritual foundation. No one who is 16 could have said that without a spiritual foundation, I'm just saying. Without an understanding of the truth of really the way life works. 16, with Asperger's. That is how we bring ourselves into blessedness with regards to persecution. Life is hard sometimes. Things don't always work out our way. We're sad, we're frustrated, we're angry about the way things are out here. But I'm telling you, here's the roadmap to living blessed, to living with blissful happiness. To live as if we are divinely favored. To live in spiritual maturity. To live with ease and grace. Because we know something beyond what we see out here. There's the roadmap. And the God of our being, whatever name you call that, is your foundation. And as the Apostle Paul says elsewhere in one of his letters, if God is for us, who can be against us? So let's take those ideas this afternoon into meditation. I invite you to take a deep breath and transition your attention into your own being. Take a deep breath in and out. And to know that there is a way for us to walk lightly on this earth, in this body, with this soul, and feel the blessedness to feel divinely favored, not more than someone else, but the divine favor that we all can feel. That is our birthright. To feel holy and whole. Blessed. Blessed. happy. I am not troubled by coming and going, and am beyond all vision, above all spheres. His spirit lives in my soul. Mukta says, he is my heart's only home.